Those of you who are online, and I'm not able to see how many participants we have, we are running a little bit behind, so we will get started here in just a little bit. Okay, it looks like we have one participant online and one here live. So we're just going to go through my presentation. So my name is Ranae Aspen, and I'm the statewide tobacco specialist for Nebraska Department of Ed. Thanks for being here, Karen, and person online. There's my contact information. I am with the Office of Coordinated Student Support Services. In 2020, the CDC recognized that vaping will be a huge emerging issue. Any agency receiving tobacco funding from the CDC was ordered to have dedicated funds for youth tobacco prevention. And so through a partnership with Tobacco Free Nebraska and the Nebraska Department of Education, Nebraska now has a statewide youth tobacco specialist housed through NDE, and that's me. So, and I'm wondering, do you want to maybe move over here so I don't have my back to you? I'm asking Karen a lot here, so. All right, so we're going to go through Nebraska data, national data. What are e-cigarettes? E-cigarette 101. Don't forget about other tobacco products. Karen, I'm going to put you on the spot. You said you are with Skylar. Are you still in high school? Have you graduated? You're still in high school. And what grade are you in? Okay, so this is excellent. So thank you again for being here. We're going to talk about mini grants, and that might be something, since you're here, obviously you have an interest in tobacco and prevention. Do you see mostly vaping, or do you have like kids that chew? What kinds of things are you seeing? Okay, so cigarettes, vaping. Okay, okay. So you have some personal kinds of things going on with that. All right, and then we have resources for tobacco prevention. I will walk through Catch My Breath just a little bit, talk about some other evidence-based resources, and then how can No Limits Nebraska mini grants connect to after-school clubs? So I'm going to, we're going to take a look at Nebraska data, and I'm just going to hand this over to Karen. So every year we take the youth risk behavior assessment. I believe it is 8th, 10th, and 12th grade, I think. And then we're going to talk some national numbers, because honestly, if we look at what's going on nationally, that's probably what's coming here next to Nebraska, or it's already here. We're going to take a look at this video.
Parents are all the same when it comes to vaping.
Bye, Mom. Bye, honey.
None of them think their kid is doing it.
Not my kid.
Maybe some of their kids' friends. Maybe some on the soccer team. Definitely that kid with the purple hair. Maybe even some of the cheerleaders. But their kid? Never. If that's what you think, all right.
More than 1 in 4 high schoolers vape. Does that seem realistic at your school, Karen? Yeah. And what we really are learning, we got to get down to the root cause of it. Back in my day, it was cigarettes, right? And so you could look cool and maybe not even be using it. That was one thing. But what do you think? Do you think there might be some addiction involved with that? Yeah, so it's more than just looking cool, right? So here's our Nebraska data. This is from 2021. 23% of students reported using some type of tobacco. Again, we don't want to dismiss other types of that as well, because I know, especially, not to stereotype, but in rural areas, we see a lot of things with chewing tobacco. I know that pouches are there too. Come in. Hi. Okay, all right. Well, we are just working through some Nebraska data here. So 48% of students who reported using tobacco have tried to quit. 53% of students who felt sad or hopeless have tried vape products versus 23% of our happier students. And Karen, you're just going to get picked on through this whole presentation. But when you think about the kids that are actively vaping in your school, do you think that sounds maybe right, that it's not necessarily the happy kids that are doing it, but it's the kids that are kind of, it's a struggle for them? Kind of, maybe? Okay. And we have to remember too, 2021 is, we're just kind of getting out of COVID, and I think that was a real hard thing for not just us adults, but also for our youth. Here's our national data. So more than 2.5 million high and middle school students currently use e-cigarettes. 1 in 4 use e-cigarettes daily. The most commonly used device type is disposables. Almost 85% use flavored e-cigarettes. So electronic nicotine delivery systems, or ENDS, products like e-cigarettes are very popular with young people, and ENDS remains an ongoing concern. So exactly what are e-cigarettes? The components of e-cigarettes are a battery, a heater, an atomizer, cartridge or tank, and a microprocessor. So what do we know about the battery part of this? It charges it. Could it be dangerous? Yeah. They do, sometimes in some instances, they explode. They can cause burns. So there's other things besides all the stuff that are in that vapes that we need to be a little concerned with. All right, e-juice, sweet flavors abound. So starting from the left, you've got something that looks like Ready Whip. Who doesn't like that, right? Lifesaver gummies that they have hijacked their graphics there. E-liquid, food products. Are there labels on vapes? Any idea, Karen? No, there's no labeling on them, so they can have just about whatever in them, right? 81% of kids who ever used tobacco products started with a flavored product. 99% of e-cigarettes sold in 2015 contained nicotine. Okay, this is where we get to have fun, and if you would like to, you can, and if not, I'm okay with it since it's just you. You may stand if you think that A is a vape. What do you think? Yes or no? It's hard to see? Okay, it's not. What about B? B is a vape. How about C? It is. How about D? It is not. However, you will see in the next slide that highlighters actually are now vapes. So what we think now is not a vape, moving forward, there's workarounds and there's people producing things that look like all kinds of crazy stuff, and you'll see that in my next slide. All right, so how about E? Do you think that's a vape? No, it's a pen. What about F? Nope, G is. How about H? No. How about I? Yes. And J? Yes. Here's the next slide that I think is really, I was just appalled when I saw this, but it's happening. Illegal vapes that resemble characters. So we have Mario, we have a toy camera, we have SpongeBob, something that looks like a Dunkin' Donut drink, little bears, and we have highlighters. So that's where really, in my estimation, teachers and after-school care providers, where they come into play, because some of the things we can look for are not obvious. They are things like change in mood. They are things like change in appetite. Those kinds of things can be correlated with the use of nicotine and having those conversations with kids. So, after-school club resources for tobacco prevention. And here's a short video. Again, cannot stress enough, you are a part of that team. So, and Karen, what grades again are you with? K through 5th grade. I have to hope that they're not using things, but there is, I mean, we do need to recognize that sometimes you mentioned that you come from a household where mom and dad smoke, correct? We had a situation, and I will keep the name of the school anonymous, where a kindergartner found a vape on the playground. And the other child said, "Hey, mom and dad have those. Well, let's all bring some tomorrow." Okay? And that started a big thing. So even at that lower level, there are some things sometimes that you might see. So I think it's really good, even though maybe you are in that elementary stage, that you just are aware that kids are around that. And here's this
Is that a
video.
vape? I see some of your friends are vaping, and you're vaping. Wouldn't you be happier if you didn't? Not the best argument. He knows that it's not safe for him to vape. Just needs a nudge from someone he trusts. I know you have a lot going on.
Getting addicted to nicotine is the last thing you need.
Step up for your students. Talk to them about vaping. Visit cdc.gov/vaping for more information.
Addiction is the last thing you need. It's the adults in the room and the high schoolers that are working in our after-school program that can really help us combat the amount of youth that are trying tobacco products and they end up getting hooked on it. It's an addiction. So here are some free resources. Catch My Breath, and it is a peer-reviewed evidence-based program. It can be used in a variety of settings, including after-school settings. Again, it is free, and I am fully trained in this curriculum. So if you have questions, once you go in and decide to create an account, I would be happy to walk anyone through that. It's pretty simple. This is the only curriculum that I have found thus far that does not, or excuse me, that includes parent resources and then pre-K through 12th grade. The full-fledged lessons are 5th grade to 12th grade, but there are resources for those younger students. And unfortunately, we're starting to see that throughout the state. Then we have Take Down Tobacco Advocacy Training, and this is online and it's a free coursework. That would be great for you and high school students that might like to know just a little bit more, and it's also very good for adults as well. And then we have Stanford Medicine Tobacco Prevention Kit. This is a theory-based curriculum for educators, parents, and middle school, high school students. And then these are Nebraska specific. We have Tobacco-Free Nebraska e-cigarettes and vaping, and Nebraska Tobacco-Free School Kit. While you are all on the front lines of after school, I really feel that you do have the voice of your administrators. One of the things that would be great to mention to them is looking at restorative and supportive discipline versus punitive. While we will probably never see the day that we don't have in-school or out-of-school suspension, maybe those extra things like, do you have someone to check on that student that you've sent home? Karen, how are things going? Are you going to feel ready to come back to school and be okay to not be vaping anymore? What can I do to help? Those kinds of questions. We need to remember that by the time someone has been caught, especially with a vape, more than likely that addiction has already started taking place. And then we have the Nebraska Quit line. I do have pamphlets available that are specific for youth. We have No Limits Nebraska, and then Resource Center for mini grants and No Limits resources for schools and youth. And I'm really going to hit that hard in the next couple of slides. Questions before I go further? Okay. So my direct education plan for 2023-24 is regional train the trainer sessions statewide for any staff working with tobacco prevention and restorative discipline for students who have violated school tobacco policy. For after schools, I could also do specific training on catch my breath. If your staff would like to go through that, I would be happy to help with that. And we can do those actually both virtually as well as face-to-face, whichever would meet your needs. And then I have mini grants. They are competitive mini grants, $250 for one event and $500 for 3 student-led tobacco prevention events with a small amount of evaluation to be required. We will want to have an adult sponsor to oversee things like hitting benchmarks, hitting deadlines rather, and making sure to do that evaluation and the proper spending of the dollars as well. So I have 3 areas. I have cigarette butt and e-cigarette cleanup. Any idea, Karen, do you have a cleanup plan in your community for e-cigarettes? And I'm not surprised that you say that. I have been actively asking throughout the state, and no, no one seems to have a cleanup protocol for those battery energized end use products. So my hope would be that your voice as a youth, if you decided to take on a mini grant, that you would say to your community, okay, Skylar, how do you want us to dispose of these? Hopefully things would include like wearing gloves, having a trash bag that's labeled that these are e-cigarettes, and then having your local trash or recycling centers to help with that. Okay. So I almost thought maybe we shouldn't go that route, but I think that your voices can be heard because it's a big thing. I know I'm from the middle part of the state. I'm in Kearney, and I know that our park and rec department find them all over everywhere. So I think this can be a good thing. Youth, your voice can be heard. Then we have sugar-coated lies, and we have be your own voice. All right, grant details are made simple. Organize events to draw public awareness to the impact of youth and the use of tobacco products. Again, $250 for one tobacco prevention event or $500 for 2 tobacco prevention events. Every event needs to include a public service announcement. This can be a slide presentation, a video, podcast, digital billboard for your community and the state of Nebraska. Use your imagination because there are no limits. And again, the basic thing is we do want an adult sponsor required. Putting you on the spot again, Karen, do you belong to any organizations such as like FCCLA or HOSA? Do they have those in your school? So that would be one. If you're not a member, that might be something that you could take home and share with them if you wanted to put on one of these events. And you can always reach out for guidance to be sure you're following the best practices of tobacco prevention with your event and your PSA. Planning has been made simple. As a group, you select activities that fit your school and your community. Included in the grant packet will be a planning guide. You fit activities into the course of the school year, keeping in mind your activities and evaluations must be submitted by April 12th, 2024. You may want to design activities with some national dates. So there's the Great American Smokeout Day. It's the 3rd Thursday in November to kick off your mini grant activities. Another example might be Earth Day. Earth Day is beyond that April 12th date, but we could do an Earth Day whatever time of the year you would like to do that. Just some great ideas for some themes there. And then provided is a rubric that will be used to evaluate applications, but it's also a great tool to help you plan your project. So how to apply for mini grants, overview of 3 topics to choose from. I'm going to go on deciding a topic, and we'll look at filling out a simple application and some important dates to remember. So cigarette butt and e-cigarette cleanup. And again, Karen, since you're the one here, these are just examples. Again, I really want some creativity with this. All of these things, well, most of them, come from the No Limits program that was in the mid-2000s. We've had COVID and a number of things that have changed in this world, and so you want these to be relevant for your groups. So example 1, you would research laws, guidance, and regulation for clean air, and we do have a Clean Indoor Act here in Nebraska. Anyone who employees would have to abide by that. So schools, do they employ employees? Yes, they do. So if you have a student that's vaping in the middle of recess or what have you, or if you're in high school and maybe it's in the middle of a class actually, that's going against that Clean Indoor Act because in, I believe, 2020, they also included e-cigarettes into that Clean Air Act. The second example is researching current policies and suggest changes. And example 3, taking a look at smokeless tobacco, e-cigarettes, and vapes. And each one of those, I should back this up, each one is cigarette butt and e-cigarette cleanup. I would ask that you do a cleanup. And we will supply you with flags. And it's interesting to flag wherever there is garbage that's related to tobacco. And then you can promote that on social media. That's a good thing to take a look at. Sugar-coated lies. So example 1 would be public policy concerning flavored tobacco. Karen, do you remember hearing in the news about Juul? Have you heard about the Juul settlement? What do you know about it? It was bad for you? Okay. So Juul was one of the first vaping companies. And they actually were advertising to 8-year-olds to go to camp, right? They did a lot of really unscrupulous things. Their advertisements were of very young people looking very trim and very trendy, and they were advertising to youth that were younger than what the legal age was. And the biggest thing they did is they added fruit flavors. So And that picture that we saw with all of the fun things, that's what they were doing. So Nebraska got $8 million over the next 5 years from a Juul settlement. However, I can tell you this, we still have flavors on the market, okay? There was a vape shop in my community and one down the road owned by the same people, and they were injecting their pods with fruit flavors. And I have a lot of questions about that. Again, there's no labeling and no control over that. The second example is tobacco use in media. Do you like Bruno Mars? Okay. I would encourage you, so who do you like to listen to? Give me an example. It's okay, don't be bashful. What's your favorite song going on right now? Frank Ocean. Have you ever watched any of the videos with Frank Ocean? I would encourage you to and see if he uses any tobacco. It's a he, any tobacco in his videos. I really like Bruno Mars a lot. But now that I've watched his videos, guess what? He's one of the biggest offenders of having tobacco products in his videos, like smoking and smoke rings and vaping and everything else. So I really would encourage you to take a look at that. It's interesting. And then also the next one, how big tobacco targets teens. So you're a teenager. Why would they want to target you? Because you don't care anymore. Do you have any idea how old your parents were when they started smoking? Have they ever told you? In their 20s? Okay. So that big tobacco company got them started when they were 20. Do you think they'll quit anytime soon? Which probably breaks your heart, right? But the thing is, if I'm big tobacco and I want to make big money, I want to catch you. Like Jewel was trying to catch the 8-year-olds. They want to catch you at a younger age so that they can make more money off of it. Does that make sense? It's really disgusting, actually, isn't it? Yeah. So then be your own voice to create a tobacco-free Nebraska. This one gets in the nuts and bolts of investigating current tobacco policy, legal age, and taxes. How old do you have to be to purchase cigarettes and vapes and all of that? 21. And it just changed in 2020, I believe is the year. It was 18. So what we should see with our data, do you think it's going to cause the age of trying tobacco to go up or down? Should go down because you don't have as much access to it. Does that make sense? So for an example, did you say you're a senior? So how old are you? Do you have some 18-year-olds in your class? Probably. Yeah. So those 18-year-olds could be supplying younger kids with that. So that's our hope. Historically, that's what happened, is if we increase the age of legal purchase, then it goes down for the youth. So that's what we're going to hope. Research current policies and suggest changes, and interview students on e-cigarettes or other tobacco product uses. I think this would be interesting to have conversations with kids your age to find out, what's it like. A lot of what we're learning is that students, they think it's really cool and it makes them feel really good in the beginning. And then what happens? Not so much, because then it causes more problems with anxiety and so on. So again, the way it fits into your adult school clubs, your sponsor role is minimal. You need to ensure that the youth fill out applications and the evaluation forms. And of course, paying attention to the dates is really important. Receive the grant award paperwork and share with the necessary staff in your building. Spending funds to support mini grant activities and filling out the necessary forms for reimbursement. And then overseeing youth during tobacco prevention activities. And I can promise any adult out there, I am making this as simple as I possibly can, because we're looking at $250 or $500. So then the youth role, they are going to take the lead in filling out the grant application, plan tobacco prevention activities, and follow up with the final evaluations and success stories. I'm picking on you again, Karen. Does that seem like that would be a difficult charge? You had a group of youth helping you out? Not too bad, right? Okay. And there is the QR for the grant application. I did upload all of these things onto the scheduler, so you should have access to the resources, the PowerPoint and everything. So here's your important dates. I opened these up September 18th. They will close October 31st. And grant winners will be announced on a rolling basis. In other words, as soon as applications are coming in, we are going to be pushing them through the rubrics, and as they come in and we determine that you're eligible, they will be pushed out to you. And then April 12th, projected, completed, and success stories with evaluations are due. That's really important because we want to get the evaluations before the end of school. And you all know that April 12th, after that point, it gets super busy. You've got a lot of other things that you need to wrap up. And again, that evaluation will be pretty simple. More than likely, I will have on there the amount of kids that you think the events reached. Does it look like this can be sustainable? And those kinds of things. It will help me so that the next year we can really work the bugs out of everything and make it a good, smooth process. Okay, questions? No? Okay. I'm going to attempt to pull up my website because I want to show that, and we have plenty of time. And my online participant, I am so sorry that we didn't have a lot of participation here, but hopefully you gained some knowledge. And let me see about pulling up this website. So here we have the No Limits Nebraska Youth Tobacco Prevention. And hard for me to use this microphone and scroll. We did have a really nice showing at the first Takedown Tobacco Day that we held. I did a small scale because I'm brand new. So we did this with Grand Island Northwest, and we did it with their student council. I'm just going to pause here. They had some really powerful things that they wrote to their senators. And Karen, this is what I want to impress upon you. You do have a voice, and so use it. So I would also invite you, and you're getting a little more here than what I was going to share today. We will, after we do the grants, then in January, once you've settled back in after winter break, I will be sending out applications for a statewide youth tobacco leadership team. And you will get to have the job of planning a statewide Takedown Tobacco Day. In the past, No Limits has done that. No Limits kind of went into a pause, I guess, probably in about 2018, and when now we're revitalizing that. So I need youth to be on board with this, and that youth would be someone who would commit for 1 year because you'll do the planning. And actually, you're a senior. So what I really need from you is to find someone else in Schuyler that's a junior so they can take on that role. I would still ask you to participate. I would really love to see you at some of these things. So, but just to go through a couple of these, one young person said, "Hello, Senator. Tobacco is destroying teen lives. Seeing a fellow classmate struggle with addiction is a hard fight. Please help end addiction and save our lives." The next one, Mr. Vargas just wanted to say, "I support the fight against tobacco. I know over 5 people who either vape, smoke, etc. While it's their choice on what they do, it becomes a problem, and when others are dragged in. When my classmate passes out in the bathroom, everyone is up and involved. Either from vaping or drugs, their health problems become everyone's problems. Vape if you want, but don't do it to the point of passing out in the bathroom. Good luck." That's some heavy stuff. And that school dealt with some heavy issues last year. So I'm hopeful that I will be able to have some of those come on board to continue helping with this issue. This is the heart of what I've been talking about, and this is the No Limits Nebraska mini grants. So if we scroll down, and forgive me, I'm having a hard time not being able to use two hands. There are your dates. We have September 18th is when they rolled out. We have October 31st for the deadline for applications. They will be coming out to you on a rolling basis. And then I do need to change this date on here. I apologize. It will be April 12th that I will want those evaluations to be done. So step one, you want to look at the different options that we went over, and the youth, this needs to be youth-led. I cannot say that enough, over and over again. We know from research that it's the youth's voice that is going to be the ones that change this issue, not adults saying, not adults saying you have to quit doing this. So they will decide on a topic and then review the three mini grant choices, decide on an event, and then you're going to go through the instructions, including how to plan your event, ideas for the event, and remember, no limits really does mean no limits. In that planning guide, I had some examples, like for an example, you could put tobacco facts on a popcorn bag, and that could be a reinforcement to one of the events that you have given. And maybe even if you could get the concession stand to, if someone would answer a tobacco fact, like if it's true or false, then maybe they get to bring that back the next time for a free bag of popcorn. That would be a way to get your community involved too, so that there's an understanding that we really want ultimately to create a tobacco-free Nebraska. So scrolling down, you have the sponsor role that you can click on, and it'll tell you everything you need to know, and then the grant application. And I'm just going to click on that. And again, it's pretty simple. We need the school and the organization, your physical address, who your sponsor's name is, their phone number. We do need a support letter. It can be just as simple as, I am the after-school director of this program, and I have several students that are interested in this, and they're all a group of kids that I feel strongly would do a great job in promoting tobacco prevention, something of that nature, just so we know that there is an adult on board. And then we need a lead student contact name and what their grade level is. We do really want to focus on middle school. We know that this is happening at younger grades, but we do want to focus on middle school and high school for these events. And then, so yes, you just work through that. And honestly, if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. And then, since we have a little bit of extra time, I'm going to pull up Catch My Breath. I know that there are a lot of after-school programs that are elementary. And I also can tell you I get calls a lot for information for younger kids. So I want to show you a couple of things. So, and I went too fast. So when you go to the Catch My Breath site, you will need to create an account. So it'll just be your name, what your position is within your school, and then your email address. Very, very simple. And then you have access to this free curriculum. So this will go through several things, but I want to show you. So here's your core curriculum. Hopefully you can see my cursor there. But then we have K through 8 substance misuse expansion lessons. So we do have a lesson for kindergarten. And I'm gonna, let's see. Let me go back up here. The nice part about Catch is it's all set up into slides. So let me just go back here and I'll hit start the lesson. And all of the slides are right here. Now, honestly, when we're talking about younger kids, obviously one of the first things you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have your parents on board here. I'm going to click into this really quick. We won't go through the whole thing, but I want you to get a flair for how easy some of this stuff can be. That Catch curriculum also can be where, Karen, if you decided to do an event at your school with a group of students, you could click into some of those lessons and you could just do a Catch lesson. It's very easy, so students can lead it on their own. So that's Catch. Karen, what questions do you have for me? Nothing. And I know I have 2 participants. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and hopefully you can jot down my information. I would be happy to visit with you. And Karen, I am hopeful that I see a mini grant application from Skylar. What do you think? Is that something you would like to do? Not sure? Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, those of you online, I'm gifting you back, it looks like about 15 minutes of your day. So thank you very much for hanging out with me. And with that, I will close. Have a good afternoon.